So it went from being without a project to being almost a little bit overwhelmed. This is my friend Steve's trailer. I'm gonna build him a ramp for the back. He's got a walk behind skid steer, and he's got a walk behind gasoline powered concrete buggy that need to get up on this trailer. So he brought me some materials. We're gonna make a ramp. I got a bad bearing in my boat trailer. It burned up on the way to a fishing trip. We had to turn around and come home, and I changed everything, and the last trip it was still way hotter than the other hubs, so there's something wrong. I need to look at that before we go fishing. I got my wife's studio turned upside down and inside out, and Christmas is coming, so I'm kind of pressed for time on that. And these little Grand Bank step plates, I had 5. I said I need to get rid of these things. They've been sitting around here for a year, so I promptly sold 6. So I screwed up. I got to pour some more, so now I'm going to have, if they all come out, 5 more to get rid of. So lots to do. People waiting on me for these. My wife's waiting on me at home. It's too wet to do anything on her floors today. Steve, I don't know if he's waiting on this or not, but he's ordered another buggy, so we'll be wanting this soon. And I can't schedule a fishing trip till I have time to work on my boat. So I guess life is good, huh? So the ramp consists of the flat panel, which is nothing to it, the hinges, which is a little more complicated, the latches, which are a little more complicated, and some sort of spring assist, because this thing's going to be heavy, as crazy heavy. We're going to put 3 of these in the middle, because this concrete buggy has 3 wheels, and we want one of these under each wheel. And luckily the walk behind skid steer that he's purchased has the same wheelbase, the wide, as the outside wheels of the concrete buggy. And then around the perimeter we're going to use this 1.5 inch rectangular tube that he bought. It's pretty nice stuff, 1/4 inch wall. So pretty simple, just cut and fit and weld up this. The hinge we'll make with a inner pipe or inner round bar and pieces of pipe for the outside, and it'll be all welded up. And the latch, I don't have a clue yet. Not that far along. So I've made lots and lots and lots of rectangular frames in my day, wood and steel and concrete in a house, and all sorts of things that should be square. And it seems simple. You just make the sides the same and the tops the same, and you will get a rectangular square structure. But perfection eludes me. Very seldom do they come out perfect. So once again, I'm starting off here thinking I'm going to get it perfect. Let's see what happens. So instead of doing a 45-degree corners, I'm doing like a little lap corner. I think it's just easier for me. It's hard for me to get a perfect 45. I can get these closer usually. So the pieces of the tailgate or the ramp are all cut out and basically ready to weld. I got to remove paint. The silver is paint and the black is coal tar epoxy, so that won't be any fun. But I know I've got them right because he left me a drawing, so I'm going by the drawing. But before I weld them together, I'm going to work on the hinge, because it's going to be easier just working with that 2x2 and doing a welding in the vise than trying to weld it when everything else is together. So okay, we got a hinge plan. I got this 5/8 inch. I'm assuming it's mild steel bar. I'm not even sure where it came from. I never bought it. And I got a bunch of 3/4 pipe. Some of it's water pipe and some of it's structural pipe, and it fits over it. Not like super tight, but good enough for a hitch hinge. So I'm going to cut these about whatever I can get out of here and line them all the way down the pipe the width of the trailer. Every other one will be welded to the gate, and every other one will be welded back to the trailer. So yeah, this is that mostly be galvanized water pipe. I don't know how strong that is, so I'm not just going to put a couple of these. I'm going to line the whole thing. We're going to make it strong. Alright, got them all cut. No problem. Now I need to clean the ends because we got sharp burrs, and I need to clean the galvanizing off of one side or some of it so I can get a decent weld. The ends are easy. The galvanizing a little more tricky. We'll work it out. Alright, we have a hinge and it is ready to weld, and I have ground the paint off the top of this square tube, and that was a bare. I ended up just using a grinding wheel because I was just burning up my flat discs. And I'll clean the end so when we get ready to weld we'll be okay. And I've got it centered and it's all lovely, and I'm going to start probably just tacking every other one. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and that one. And then, well, eventually I have to weld them. But for now, I may just tack them, make sure everything's... So I welded all of the hinge, I don't know what you call them, leaves, onto, or every other one, both sides. And it made the square tube warp pretty badly, so I had to beat on it with the maul quite a few times, but it's straight now. And now I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get set up to put it together and keep it square. I wish I had a big, huge table that would fit this, but I don't. So let's see what we can do. First corner ready to weld. I am going to tack it in a couple of places. I'm not going to 100% it until I get the whole frame put together, which shouldn't be hard. Okay, this went super easy. I got the corner tacked, and I got the 3 straight ones tacked because they fell on the table. All I had to do was get them on the mark and put the framing square on them. And now that I have these flat ones, I can unclamp the structure and pull it straight to me so I can get the far end on. It used to come to me, I don't know, 14 inches or something. And it shouldn't fall down because these flat ones are going to hold it. So this has been much easier than I thought it was going to be. Sorry about all the fan noise in the background. Earlier I said, and I did, weld the hinge parts to the center of the rectangular tube, and I would have done myself a favor if I'd have picked them up a little more toward the top, because later on I had some issue with the hinge binding with the back of the trailer. I had to do a lot of grinding to get that resolved. If I would have just moved the hinge maybe a 1/4 inch up higher, everything would have been lovely, and I would have saved myself a lot of grinding. There was still a little bit of bow in the rectangular tube that I welded the hinges to, so I had to pull it a little bit with it come along, but it wasn't hard. I just had to pull it more than I could hold it by hand. And I got the corners lined up, and I checked my diagonals, and I actually have a square frame here. It is within probably 1/8 of an inch, so I'm super stoked. A lot of welding, weld it up solid, and turn it over and weld the bottom solid. I'm making an effort to spread my welds out a little bit. Just seemed like a right thing to do to make sure I don't get any warpage problems. So I'm welding like 1 inch or so on each one of these channels. These are 6-inch channels. Channels measured by weight per foot. I'm not sure what they are, but it's about a 1/4 inch wall. They're pretty stout. And the rectangular tube is 1/4 inch wall. So this kind of welding is easy for me. I just got the welder cranked up. And you don't have any trouble with the welds not sticking. You don't have any trouble burning through because you got a lot of metal to work with. So this was kind of a pleasure welding this up. was on a roll, and my battery went dead in my face shield, which means it goes black. So I gotta go find a battery at 6 o'clock in the morning. I guess Home Depot should be open. Okay, tailgate is sitting in place where I think it needs to go. I'm gonna put a couple of tacks on a couple of these pipes and then see how it folds up before I go crazy. And I'm not gonna lay under the trailer and weld the bottom of these pipes, so I'm gonna put 2 or 3 passes on the top. Make sure it don't fall down. So this is what I have for a latch. I'm gonna weld this piece here, it's got a hole in it. I'm gonna weld this piece here, it's got a slot in it. And I got these little things, I don't know what they're called, but they're real common. And that'll drop in here and lock. So I just need to get it in the right spot with a little bit of tension on the rubber hose, not too much, and weld it up. But I gotta get rid of all this nasty paint before I do that. Anyway, coming along, just little bits of steel that I had laying around, cut them to fit. Cleaned up and ready to weld, and I think I have it where I want it. I have a little bit of pressure on the rubber with the big clamp at the bottom. And what I'll do is I'll just put a little tack on each one and take the clamps off and make sure it functions. I can always bend it around a little bit if I don't put too much weld. And then I will do the other side, same thing. All right. The latches are complete and they work pretty darn good. And I had these springs put them on there and they help tremendously to get the ramp off the ground. This thing's heavy, and when we put the expanded metal, it's going to get heavier, and when he gets some dirt tracked on here from his equipment, it's going to get even heavier. Steve's a lot bigger than me, but it's heavy, so I had the springs, I put them on there. They help tremendously up to here. And then you got a full weight of the gate. However, it's easier when you get it this high than trying to pick it up off the ground. So Steve is free to use the springs, to get different springs, whatever he wants to do. One problem I had with the springs is keeping them from coming undone. And I know you're not supposed to weld onto a spring, but I put a teeny little dot right there, and that keeps it from coming out of that hole. And I put a teeny little dot right here, and that did absolutely nothing because it just came out of there. How did that happen? And here, it needs to replace the wire with a U-bolt, or I need to get some U-bolts. How did that just come off of there? Must have messed up my knot. Yeah, same thing on this side. I'll put a little dot of weld here and a little dot of weld here, because these springs weren't really configured the right way, but it's just what I had. So Steve picked up the expanded metal today and brought it over here. Just gonna lay it out. It's not quite big enough, so we're gonna have to do some figuring. But first thing will be to grind a bunch of paint so I can get some welds that'll stay. And then we will kind of lay it out and see what we got to do. So the 7-inch grinder is no fun to handle. It's like 5 times heavier than the 4.5-inch grinder, but it just cuts so much faster that I use it when I can. I started cutting from the top down toward the bottom, but I couldn't see my line because all the sparks, so I just turned around, started going the other way. I could see pretty good, pretty comfortable position, and we chopped it off pretty quick. I don't know what gauge this expanded metal is that he purchased, but it's heavy enough that I can get a decent weld on it. So I welded every point around the perimeter, and in the middle where it sits on the channels, I welded like every 6 inches, every 4 inches. You can kind of see where I've removed the black paint, and that's where I welded it. And it's pretty stiff. It moves when you step on it, but I don't think it will fail, even if he got his machine way off center where the wheels weren't on top of the channels. I think he'll be all right. So the 4x8 sheet that Steve bought is not quite enough, and rather than take his scrap and turn it the wrong way where it wouldn't have much strength, I got some super heavy stuff. I'm gonna just run along that bottom. It's like 3 inches all the way across. Cut just to fit, piece it together. This is heavy, so I can really get a good weld on this stuff. I kind of forgot about the camera, but anyway, I got the last few inches cut and put in place, and I have the light wires on top of the heavy wire, so it's really strong, probably stronger than out here in the middle. And it's really heavy. I can barely pick it up. So Mr. Steve, even though he's, like the Cajuns say, even though he's twice my tall and 3 times my big around, he's gonna have trouble with this thing. He's gonna have to get some real springs on it, but he can do that. So I'm gonna get the flapper wheel and knock some of the sharp corners off, and I'm done. Trailer gate complete. So close up to show how much bigger that old rusty wire is than this new wire. So I actually have it underneath at every point and every point welded. So it's this wire will hold up this wire on this edge to keep it from bending down. I hope that's the plan.